This year marks my 10-year anniversary of partnering with Card Kingdom. For 10 years, Card Kingdom has sponsored Rhystic Studies and has provided cards and accessories to our wonderful community of Magic enthusiasts here on YouTube. Let's celebrate this milestone together and keep it rolling for another decade more. Thank you, Card Kingdom, for the support. I'm a member of Team BASILISK, an esports organization on a mission to inspire the next generation of scientists through the study and play of difficult games. Check out basilisk.gg for more info on our initiative and to meet our Hall of Fame team. Thank you, Basilisk, for the support. The 17-time World Series of Poker champion Phil Hellmuth once said, and I quote very loosely, "If there weren't luck involved, I would win every time." When I search Phil Hellmuth's name on YouTube, the recommended bar populates with Phil Hellmuth Rage Compilation, Phil Hellmuth Blow-Ups. Seems this guy has a reputation.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Phil Hellmuth, or rather the poker brat, has a funny relationship with luck. He understands it is an essential ingredient to the richness and complexity of poker, but it drives him mad when it falls in favor of an amateur opponent. Playing against the sports analyst and talk show host Nick Wright, Hellmuth bets his hand of King Jack through the flop and turn in all the ways you should, and then erupts when the river fills out Wright's hand with two pair of 10-6.
Jacks for the king.
I rivered you, buddy.
Uh-oh.
Ooh, he's up.
I rivered you, buddy is the Hold'em equivalent of being dead to rights and top decking your only out. Lightning Helix, Rakdos' return, Bonfire of the Damned. We've seen the clips and have celebrated the winner's miraculous victories. But Magic, like poker, is a zero-sum game. These all-time highlights just as well documents the worst moments for the losing side. Even when you play your cards right, Lady Luck might have other plans. This thorny rose of randomness has characterized Magic since the outset. It fuels the gripes and validates the dismissals, and eventually makes Hellmuths out of all of us. The many one-star reviews of Arena in the App Store echo the familiar complaints about mana flood and mana screw that have swirled around since the early 90s. Spend enough time on Magic Online and you too will be crowned the greatest luck sack of all time. Blizzard once heard these groans loud and clear, and took them very seriously. Hearthstone was an attempt to reduce variance in the resource system, and for my money, it also reduced the fun. This made me wonder, what if we went the other direction and maximized luck in Magic? What if we stripped away the petals of deck building and metagaming and hidden information and wielded only the stem of chance? What if we dropped the flop and turn, the calls, the raises and the bluffs, and reduced everything to the river? I suppose we would need a dealer, and how fitting that his name is Vig. Entering the summer of 1997, Magic had a big problem. There weren't enough casual players. In the introductory pages of the Duelist issue 22, Mark Rosewater remarked, "This month I thought it would be wise to address a topic that's been slowly creeping into the Magic community, the notion that Magic isn't as fun as it used to be. With the advent of the Pro Tour and its lure of big bucks and fame, many players are now complaining that Magic has gotten too competitive, and therefore less enjoyable for the average player." Wizards responded with a shot in the arm via a new product called Vanguard, a collection of 16 oversized Magic cards depicting characters from the Weatherlight Saga in never-before-seen card frames. The intent was to use the Arena League as a test market for the concept of Magic cards that aren't really Magic cards. In the first two batches, we find an array of proto-commanders, hybrid game pieces that showcased heroes and introduced modifiers to the base rule set. The idea was simple enough. Players would build casual 60-card decks around a Vanguard of their choice that began the game in play. Squee, for example, could leverage the static ability of seeing your opponent's hand to maximize the decision trees of counterspells, while Airtie's hexproof ability synergized with evasive threats like Air Elemental. As it turned out, Vanguard was a huge success, wrote Andy Collins in the same issue of The Duelist. Nearly 5,000 new players joined Arena, which was FNM before FNM, and the number of matches played during the 5-week season topped 50,000, establishing another all-time high. The shot in the arm worked like medicine. Players took to the twist on deck building, and Vanguard saw the printing of 3 subsequent series, rounding out to 32 cards total in paper. In 2002, Wizards released Magic Online, and the Vanguard concept carried over in the form of avatars, icons that doubled as game modifiers in the spirit of the original designs. Offering more than just aesthetic flourishes, avatars also served as prizes for winning tournaments or for playing in promotional events. This Royal Assassin avatar, for example, was a digital reward for in-person participation of Magic's 10th anniversary through the summer of 2003. You may recognize the text box. It was Dark Confidant before Dark Confidant. You also may notice the slight differences in presentation. All the Magic Online avatars carried the subtype Vanguard instead of character, and the gold accents were dropped in place of a mono blue frame. None have flavor text. Slowly but surely, Vanguard built a quiet following on Magic Online as an informal palate cleanser between leagues. In this environment, Wizards recognized another opportunity. They could seed new avatars within set releases to support their primary digital client. To try out the new Vanguards required playing Magic Online. Ravnica's rollout, beginning in October 2005, sprinkled 5 new cards across the block: Loxodon Hierarch and Sisters of Stone Death for City of Guilds, Rumbling Slum and Teza Orzhov Scion for Guild Pact, and Lizolda the Blood Witch and Momir Vig Simic Visionary for Dissension. And it was Momir who changed the game for good. Iterating on the corresponding legend of the same name that tutors up creatures, Momir Vig the Avatar has an ability that reads, pay X mana and discard a card. Create a token that's a copy of a creature with CMC X chosen at random. Activate as a sorcery and only once each turn. Unlike the former's ability, chosen at random wasn't bound to the sample size of creatures in your library, but rather, it called upon any creature printed across all of Magic's history. It was a perfect design for a digital platform, a card tailor-made to tap into the back end of Magic Online's code. Why bother programming Goblin Snowman if it saw no play in any format? Suddenly, the possibilities were wide open, and every creature in the database was live for showtime. Dissension released on May 5, 2006. Vanguard aficionados took to Momir immediately, and in no time at all they discovered the best way to build the deck was by running 60 basic lands and nothing else. A month later, on June 14th, Jeff Till wrote a primer for Star City Games introducing the variant to a readership of Spikes and speculating about general strategies. 2 questions emerged. At which mana values should you tap out for creatures? And, somewhat more surprisingly, what is the correct number of each basic land to run in the main deck? A naive mana base might consist of either 12 of each basic land or 60 of all the same basic land. Neither is ideal. Till argued instead that mountains and swamps were far more valuable, especially in the late game, because the activated abilities of all the biggest creatures required black and red mana. Think about all those dragons with fire breathing. As such, Till's deck list skewed heavily toward those 2 basics and minimized the other 3. Jeff Till was one of many who championed Momir as their avatar of choice. The Vanguard lobbies were filling with mirror matches, and by the end of the month, Wizards had officially recognized Momir Basic as a sub-format on Magic Online. Daily premiere events became quick shots at tickets, and the dedicated players were gathering and theory crafting to eke out those tiny percentage points that compel tournament grinders toward optimization. Frank Karsten interviewed one such fellow, Sam D. Sherman, captain of Clan Momir Masters, who argued in favor of Basic Island and for making 1-drops on turn 1. Josh Clark, another enthusiast, began plotting creatures in Excel sheets at every CMC based on their abilities for quick reference while playing. Mark Young, writing in February of the following year, expanded upon Till's primer with a more detailed guide. While some saw it silly to take a format based on randomness so seriously, Young concluded, if you can't laugh off bad luck on your part or miracle luck on your opponent's part, you've picked the wrong format. This one is for people who can deal. From 2006 onward, Momir Basic would continue to attract the curious with its novelty and solidify itself as a beloved minigame on MTGO. In November 2010, Wizards announced a formal event deck to support the format. For $9.99, players received a Momir Vig avatar sporting a new illustration and a fancy gold frame reminiscent of the original Vanguards, plus 60 basic lands, a ready-made kit to hop into the queues and spin the wheel. In September 2018, Momir Madness debuted on the public beta of Magic Arena, ushering in the next generation of river monsters. Notably, Vanguard avatars were not carried over to the new digital client, so Momir was instead converted into an emblem with the same activated ability, but without the life total modifier. Arena players were also confined to running 12 of each basic land, to the distant dismay of the former theory crafters. Given that Arena's backend was significantly smaller than that of Magic Online, the card pool of creatures from which to draw was but a fraction of the size as well. Particular to this event, Zakama Primal Calamity was the only 9-mana creature available in the database. As a result, early Momir games on Arena were often reduced to racing to the Elder Dinosaur. On their way to 9 mana, players had to pass through the Valley of 6-drops, a treacherous place, the domain of a demon who killed on sight. Demon Lord Belzenlok has an Enter the Battlefield ability that exiles cards and deals damage to its controller until it hits a non-land card. But there are no non-land cards in a deck full of basics, and so summoning Demon Lord Belzenlok instantly kills you in this format. Roughly 2% of the time on Magic Arena in 2018, it was Momir who rivered you. Such a scenario will sound familiar to the Momir grinders of yesteryear. Phage the Untouchable was the original Saboteur with a game-ending ETB, this time at 7 mana instead of 6. At the outset of the format in 2005, there were only 98 viable creatures at 7 mana on MTGO, meaning you'd commit martyrdom about once every 100 games. Nowadays, there are so many more creatures in circulation that you're unlikely to ever lose on the spot. More commonly, bad luck looks like activating Momir and nothing happening. So you check the game log and see you hit something like Genesis Hydra on 2, which enters with 0 counters and dies instantly, or you find a creature with goofy casting conditions, like Megatherium, or you summon a Dungrove Elder with 0 forests in play, or maybe yet, Momir will deal you an Ancestral Statue, which enters and bounces a non-land permanent you control to your hand. The issue is that all the creatures on board are tokens, so any effect that changes their zone kills them instantly. This detail can be used to the great detriment of your opponents. Cards like Mana War overperform in this game mode, as they're functionally equivalent to 1/8/7s like Ravenous Chupacabra, which also punches above its weight class. In general, any creature that generates board advantage with instant and sorcery-like effects is invaluable in a format without instants and sorceries. Those of you who played a lot of Gatecrash Limited might remember Dinrova Horror. This is like a 3-for-1 in Momir Basic. Continuing on, morph cards tend to be overcosted proportion to their stats or ineffectual because they enter face up. Evasion is always good, and landwalk abilities are a bit better than normal since your opponent is likely to hit domain by turn 5 or 6. This also adds a wrinkle to sequencing your land drops, so here's a tip. Swamp Walk is the most common of the 5, and there are only 4 creatures total in all of Magic's history that can planeswalk. Shout out Graceful Antelope. I pulled one of these from an Odyssey booster as a kid and have kept it all these years. Sometimes you're endeared to the strangest of objects. The most important unwritten rule of Momir strategy has always been get to 8 drops. 8 is important because it unlocks a suite of creatures that can end games on their own with very few duds. Another deep cut backbreaker is Hoverguard Sweepers, for example. 8 is also important because if you play a land and activate Momir every turn, including the first, then the maximum value you can spend on X is 6 on the play and 7 on the draw. This means in order to get to 8 mana, you're going to have to skip 2 turns of activating on the play, or 1 turn on the draw, since you must discard a card to generate a creature with Momir's ability. Common consensus says to skip turn 1, but never turn 2, and maybe fade turn 5 or 6 depending on the board state. Lucking into a mana creature in the early turns is a big deal, so keep that in mind too. A couple more tips. Presently, there are no creatures at 14 mana, not that games go that long anyway, and never ever ever mulligan. Many folks have described this format as something akin to 2 draft decks light on removal colliding into one another. As such, this largely becomes a game of combat math and identifying the beatdown. Momir teaches good Magic fundamentals and challenges others. Veterans will have to unlearn that tapping out on your first main phase to play creatures pre-combat is strategically correct. As Reddit user JFailed pointed out about their opponent's tough beats, They got a crater hoof with a full board, post-combat. Kenji certainly can't relate to that.
Oh, they hit a crater! Oh, they hit crater hoof behemoth. The opponent kind of high rolled on us there. If you do not like variants, this is not the format for you.
Actually, that clip with Kenji is revealing of Momir's most essential lesson. Just the turn before, Numot hit Vorinclex, Voice of Hunger, which accelerates him to either of the two Emrakul if he gets to untap, and the board is pretty stalled, so everything's looking good. Even the cascade of triggers that pile up as his opponent taps for mana add to the illusion that this game is essentially over. But Pab 70 got to the 8-drop slot, hit the river like right, and buried Kenji in 45 points of trample damage. Kenji, however, did not go full Helmuth. In fact, he went the other way completely. You might say, well, Kenji's a streamer, it's his job to take it easy and let it fall off his shoulders. You might claim that some players are immune to the salt and tough beats and all the rest. Maybe. But I think Momir Basic is less indicative of any given player's disposition, and instead more revealing of Magic's most essential ingredient. In order to get a better feel for the texture and flow of Momir Basic, I called up my buddy Cal to run some games during our lunch breaks. In the very first match, he took the 1-drop route and found Zabaz, the Glimmerwisp. I skipped my 1 and went to 2 for Imaginary Pet, a 4/4 that bounces back to hand on upkeep. In other words, I skipped my 1 and my 2. On 3, I hit the aforementioned Megatherium, meaning I skipped my 1 and my 2 and my 3, and yet, I could not stop laughing. I wish we recorded audio for this because we were both howling over the phone. The game progressed, Cal rolled some decent creatures through 5, hey, I recognize that guy, and with the help of the indomitable Goblin Snowman, I stabilized on 6 with assembled alphas. Cal hit an angel on 7, and then so did I. We traded some ground creatures and bam! Bogart and Hellkite, what a blowout. They weren't lying when they said race to 8. I killed his Thragtusk, passed the turn, and bam! Avacyn Angel of Hope. They weren't lying when they said race to 8. Cal passed back to me, I found Hellkite Overlord, he found Death Coil Worm, then I hit a Gigantomancer, an 8-mana 1/1. We were rolling on the floor. Good game, let's play another. We then played 5 more games, and throughout I was thinking, what is the appeal here? Why does this game work? Momir Basic reduces Magic to hitting the random button, but the thrill of these random outcomes is not one-sided. It is shared. I noticed that we were both participating in one another's activations. We were both celebrating the whiffs and the knockouts, even when it meant that his good fortune manufactured my loss. It would be strange to come to such a table with any expectations about winning and losing. When the game is defined by its unfiltered luck, how could you possibly be upset when it falls out of your favor? In this way, Momir Basic asserts that games are mechanisms for mutual joy, even when they're competitive. They have the power to create harmony between people, even when the outcomes are not equal. I noticed too that seeing certain cards again triggered an exchange of stories. Returning to our first game, Assembled Alphas brought back memories for Cal. He told me he tried so hard to make that work back in the day during Eldritch Moon Standard. I, on the other hand, had never seen it before, despite playing through that set myself. Or maybe I just didn't remember it. There are so many Magic cards, and so few people know them all. That's another important feature of this format. The higher the quantity of cards, the richer the experience. If you've ever used Scryfall Random as inspiration for your next commander deck or cube idea, you'll know that the quality and breadth of each individual hit can be widely disparate. Some cards bring back vivid memories of playing Limited, some are reminders of sour losses in tournaments, many may as well have been printed for the first time today. I can't say I've ever seen talk of Dawnstrider, but you may have championed this fog machine during Mask's block. I'd certainly pause my turn to hear you tell your story if so. In this way, Momir Basic flattens Magic's history through its suite of creatures. Playing it means reaching back in time, into the dusty corners behind the shelves, where draft commons have fallen into disuse and are suddenly called upon to battle one more time. It's quite funny when an otherwise unremarkable card becomes a powerhouse in such a narrow context. Cal hit a Gas Lord of Fugue in one of our games, and my god, you may as well scoop to this thing on sight. Drawbacks like intensive mana costs become irrelevant when you don't have to pay them, and the inverse is true too. Some cards that are otherwise unstoppable are total blanks here. Hydroid Krasis comes to mind. In the face of such randomness, some may ask, what's the point of thinking and playing strategically? Isn't it excessive to plot out Excel sheets and theorycraft about ideal sequencing when your opponent can just hit the river and run? Beginners to poker tend to think this way while playing. Experts, however, know that you can win with weaker cards, even when they melt down like total brats after losing to the most statistically improbable of outs. Randomness is the great equalizer, but skill is sharpened under its terms and conditions. As a kid, I used to play a custom game mode of Halo 2 in which everyone spawned with random weapons. The better players in our LAN would still win with inferior tools. Chess 960 works on a similar axis. You strip away memorization and preparation in order to test the pure fundamentals. When sitting down to the board to play, some positions feel more natural to certain players than others. In this way, luck is reintroduced to a game that, by its design, eliminates it. If luck weren't a factor, I would win every time, claims Helmuth. If he really meant that, he wouldn't play cards. But he does, and I think deep down he knows it's luck that makes the game so much fun. It would be foolish to take away the shuffled deck, the unequal distribution, the hidden information, the phases of the turn. It would be dull, don't you think, if you won every time? If all outcomes were predetermined, and you had no say or sway in tipping the scales? If you had no way to carve some path out of great misfortune? Momir Basic is chance manifest, a reminder that variety truly is the spice. Its only real drawback is that it's confined to the game's digital client, and so you can't cheer on your opponent's busted hits or share stories about the weird board states it conjures up, especially on Arena and its lack of a chat window. But Magic players are an industrious bunch. No way a string of code could stop them from playing this game in paper. On March 13th, 2012, the In Contention podcast uploaded a video to Vimeo called Momir Basic Cube, featuring Ruben Bressler, aka Mox Ruby for the heads.
As far as I know, I don't know if this has ever been emulated on paper before.
Not
so kind of
black.
exciting.
That's correct. This is the first, I believe this is the first time that this format's ever been tried with paper Magic.
After introducing the concept, the two played a few games of Momir Basic with real Magic cards divided into stacks and sorted by their mana values. Cranny, the creator of the cube, published an article a month later for Cool Stuff Inc. detailing all the decisions he made when narrowing down the suite of creatures to include in his list. He wanted something portable and evocative. He chose to skip on whammy cards like Phage, and he bent the original rule to let players activate Momir twice per turn instead of once. His list settled on a wieldy and concentrated 615 cards, with the 3-drop slot full of utility creatures to incentivize players to return to that pile in the late game. While Cranny focused on a cube he could bring to events and hangouts, Reddit user Domatron23 went the maximalist route and built the Momir Basic 30-year collection, a behemoth spanning from Alpha to March of the Machine Aftermath, 13,531 creatures sleeved and sorted across 3 bedside chests. Every creature? Even Cavern Crawler? To which OP responded with nothing but a photo. Legend. Maybe the craftiest solution to the Momir and paper dilemma is this device by Volrath's Shapeshifter, a thermal printer running Raspberry Pi and Python that taps into the same dense library of creatures in Domatron's collection with none of the weight. Toxygene made a Momir printer as well, one that reformats the text to print like a receipt beneath a low-res black and white scan of the card's illustration. Both of these devices are testaments to the ingenuity of hobbyists, proof there is no problem that can't be solved with some script and a literal cardboard box. I've seen photos floating around of people playing the Momir matches at Magic Cons, and it brings me such joy. It feels very Magic players in the best way. Recently, I was watching a video about de-scoping in indie games and how successful small-scale projects isolate mechanics from bigger releases and take their ideas to their limits. Momir Basic feels like a de-scoping of Magic, a format that borrows from its systems and turns one feature into a game all its own. I think it only works because there are so many cards. Momir could not have been conceptualized without tons of inventory. Over time, as Magic becomes more bloated with quantity and complexity, new subgames will offshoot and take form. Momir, like Dandan and Paigao, is proof that this is not one game. It is a rulebook, and every card is its modifier. That is liberating. It means you can make whatever you want of it. You can twist and turn those knobs however you'd like. You can build a Momir cube, or a Momir machine, or hell, take any other Vanguard and run. Follow its lead, find its logical conclusion. All I'd suggest is, keep crowning the lucky ones, because if luck weren't a factor, the brats would win every time. My final sponsor for this video is the Mark Poole Playmat collection on Kickstarter by Original Magic Art. Mark Poole has been an illustrator for Magic since Alpha, and is now bringing some of his most iconic paintings to playmats for this Kickstarter project. Birds of Paradise, Counterspell, and Library of Alexandria are among the first batch of works available on premium stitched mats with extended art to fit them. These are limited edition printings that are signed and numbered by Mark according to their position in the print run, with certificates of authenticity available as an optional add-on. More playmats will be unlocked through stretch goals based on backers' votes. Support the project now with my affiliate link before it ends for good on March 10th. I'm in for a library mat myself. Can't resist. Thank you, Original Magic Art and the Mark Poole Playmat collection for your support. While working on this project, I found a nifty little tool online that emulates Momir's activated ability and looks pretty nice on mobile. Just punch in a mana value and go. The tool lets you filter for paper, arena, or MTGO, and you can also modify the configurations in case you want to randomize through other card types like artifacts or enchantments instead of creatures. I can easily imagine a spin-off game with those included. Flipping through cards this way is easier than inputting all the shortcuts on Scryfall, and maybe you can jam real Momir games in paper using this app and Infinitokens or something. I'm all about it. Give it a whirl and see what comes up. It's a new year, and Cal and I are doing a new Rhystic Studies t-shirt for Stitcher Supply. I commissioned Indonesian artist Sandy Rizalmi to do a big-ass dragon flying over a decrepit castle, printed with a vintage finish. I love what he did with the design. It turned out way cooler than I could have imagined. Like last time, we're doing a pre-order for these at StitcherSupply.com, and this time, international shipping is a go. So pick up one before the window closes. I'll have the dates here on screen. Patrons get a code for 15% off, so when you support the show, even for just $1, you'll get a discount on merch like this, plus access to my podcast, my Discord, and at higher tiers, you'll get your name in the credits and a signed card in the mail. Thank you to all my patrons as always. You keep this thing alive. Thank you to Jeffrey Palmer for animating the old Visionary. Thank you to the Proxy Guy for rendering up a Vanguard in paper for me. And thank you for watching all the way to the end. Momir Vig Forever.